that say a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace, 'twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns unending, amazing. Lord has promised, Lord has promised good to me. His word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns unending love. Amazing. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My Savior, He's ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns unending, amazing. We're going to sing this last verse together. And just tonight, as we were singing this, I'm just reminded of when this song came along several years now. I ran into a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while, and he said, "Chris, we're making this movie. I have some friends who are making this movie called Amazing Grace, and we've been trying to get in touch with you. And it's crazy to run into you, and I've been trying to get in touch with you, but here we are." And he said, "We're wondering if you would take the song Amazing Grace, you know, and kind of add something to it for the movie." And I said, "Well, what's the movie about?" And he said, "It's about the life of William Wilberforce." And I was like, he just saw the blank stare on my face. He's like, "You don't know who that is?" I was like, "Bro, I went to public school. I have no idea who William Wilberforce is." And he said, "You should check it out. Him and this guy named John Newton, who wrote this hymn, Amazing Grace, and their life, and we're making this movie about their life. And so would you take the hymn, Amazing Grace, and just add something to it?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? There's no way. I'm not going to be known as the punk who ruined the greatest song that's ever been written. There's not a chance." And he said, "What?" Don't clap for that, because I did. And so he said, why don't you go read about how the song came to be? And I started reading about this hymn, Amazing Grace, and John Newton. And probably most of you knew this, but I didn't know this. The man who wrote this song lived a pretty horrible life most of his life. He was a slave trader. He was a captain of slave ships. He did horrible things to people. And in a very dramatic way, God saved his life right in the ocean one day. His ship was going down and God saved it. And he turned his life to God and began preaching the good news, began preaching the gospel, began preaching the freedom. Everywhere he would go, he'd be preaching the freedom of Christ. And it says in one of his messages, he wrote down this little poem, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see." And I was just trying to think how amazing it would have been to write. He had no idea what he was writing that day. It would be sung for hundreds and hundreds of years, by generation after generation, by people after people. And I thought, don't you know he knew what it meant to say that saved a wretch like me, of all the things he had done. And I know tonight, on this hill, we come with so many different places. All of us come with different stories. You're thinking, Chris, I see people lifting their hands to God. I would love to lift my hands to God, but how could God ever hear my song tonight? If you only knew what I've done, if you only know what I'm about, if you only know what I think, how could God ever hear my song? Well, I have the best news I could ever tell you tonight. If God is for you, who could be against you? If God is for you, what could stand against you? I don't have it all together, and you don't have it all together, but we worship a God who holds us all together. And that's the power tonight. And so when we're going to sing this little refrain, we're going to sing it as people who know what it is to be set free, who know what it is for those chains to be broken. I was looking for that last verse, you know, the hymn, "When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun," those famous lyrics. And I couldn't find them anywhere when I was like trying to research this song. And I found a little footnote, and it said those famous lyrics, the last verse, was added 100 years later to the hymn. And a little light bulb went off, and I was like, aha, some punk has come along and ruined the song once, and people seem to like it. And so maybe I could do this. And I began to just write these words, just thinking about where the song comes from, that every one of us, it says, have been born slaves to sin. Every one of us know what it is to have chains on us, things that hold us down. And that's why the gospel is called the good news, because Jesus came to break every one of those chains. The cross breaks all the chains. There's power tonight. There's so much power tonight in the cross and what Jesus has done. And so I just started writing those words. My chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. So let's sing this last verse. This is the original last verse. And as we sing that refrain, just let me know those beautiful sounds feel tonight. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. Sun forbear shine, but God who called me here below will be forever mine. You are forever mine. My chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing. My chains are He's ransomed me. Your mercy reigns like a flood. Your mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace.